Good morning. It is February 11th, 2022, and we're finally got enough going on in the greenhouse that I want to show you. We're out in my big, strong camel lean-to greenhouse, and this is where I have been putting my transplants, and I will quickly want to show you guys what we got going on. In my smaller greenhouse, I'm using it to start seeds because I can keep it warmer throughout this cold weather we've been having. So I do have some cooler weather flower seeds that I'm trying to start in here, but real quickly I just want to go over what we've got started. I did share with you my seeds, and I still have a lot of seeds to start. We are just now getting to where we're planting potatoes and other stuff, but we're not quite ready to get warm weather crops in the ground such as squash and everything, but we're coming up on it. Valentine's Day is usually our last frost date, so we're getting there. So just to start over here on the side, trying to start some Alaskan red nasturtium. I just put those out a couple days ago. Some evening sun sunflowers. These are the atomic grape tomatoes that I've got in here because I'm getting ready to transplant them. I generally start my seeds in these 4-inch pots and then transplant them into trays like this. And in these trays back here, all of this is early Jersey cabbage that I grew from seed. And then in the front here, I've got some cut and come again zinnias, and all 3 of these that I just planted yesterday. And then here we have some flowers. I've got some tall mix snapdragons that have come up here, some deal, some of the dwarf candy tuft, some of the black swan poppy, which I've got a lot of that in there, and I do have some regular bread seed poppy in the house in my spice cabinet that I wanted to do an experiment on and plant some of that as well. So hopefully I'll be able to do that pretty quickly. I have looked at the bread seed poppy flowers on Etsy where people are selling the seeds, and they're actually a really beautiful poppy flower, so I'm interested in trying that. And then here I have some snapdragons and oregano. The oregano just started coming up. Snapdragons aren't doing anything. This is the dianthus, the black minstrel dianthus that I planted from seeds for my plants out there, and it did not do anything. Some sweet williams didn't do anything. Burpee's best marigolds, these didn't do anything. Neither did the this marigold mix here. So we did, out of all of these here, we did have some good luck with the black swan poppies, the candy tuft, the deal, and the tall mix snapdragons. Moving along, this is the dwarf dahlias. This is the giant double mix zinnias. And then here is some Hungarian heart tomatoes. And this is the petite yellow marigolds that I planted from seeds out in my garden from the plants that died back. So I've got 2 trays of them. So I've got 24 of the petite yellows going. And then this is a painted single mix daisy. This is the Pacific Beauty calendula. And then in these trays here I have some tomato plants that I have transplanted. This is the Tappy's Heritage that I grew in the fall. And then here are some Blue Beauties. I just transplanted these a couple of days ago. So this is the Midnight Snack, and I grew these Midnight Snack from a single tomato that I got from one of my feed stores. And I took the tomato and I split it in half and split the seeds between 2 different little 4-inch pots, and I got all of those from there. And I have another little container of them as well. So in here I just started some seeds from compost that I had in my kitchen of some tomatoes that we were eating, and I started them in some of my beds out in the garden, and then I just transplanted them once they came up into these trays. And some of these are Kellogg's breakfast, some of them are Chef's Choice orange, there's like a Russian purple in there. So those are just mixed ones that I started out in the garden. And then here is my giant lavender zinnias. This is the cherry vanilla quinoa. And then this is the Kellogg's breakfast. And then here is another tray of those mixed tomatoes that I started out in my in one of my beds out in the garden. I just buried some compost tomatoes, and this is what came up. So there's just a variety of tomatoes in there. And then these are peppers that I grew from a bunch of seeds that I had in my that I had used. I cut up a bunch of seeds for breakfast of different peppers that I had on my counter, and I just dumped them all in one of these trays right here. And then I got, you know, a bunch of pepper plants from them. So those are some of them. This is the chocolate stripe or chocolate cherry sunflowers. And then down here we've got some red Creole and some Granix onions, and then we have a mixed lettuce bowl. Okay, and then we'll go over to the other greenhouse to see what's going on in here. So up top is where I've been keeping all the ones that haven't done anything yet. These were older, for the most part, these were older tomato and pepper seeds that I had that I just wanted to use up to see if they would sprout, and I haven't had any luck with these. But down here I have some more of those peppers that I started from different peppers that I had been growing throughout this season. There's some of the Jazzy Red zinnias, some Gloriosa Gaillardia, some pink celery, some petunia, and then over here is more of the peppers that I had started from seeds of my peppers that I was growing. Just all you have to do is when you're cooking your cutting up your peppers, just de-seed them, save the seeds, dump them in some dirt, and they will all come up. And these are from all the different varieties of peppers that I'm growing in my garden. Some are Mad Hatters, some are the Guajilla peppers, some will be chocolate, some will be lemon spice jalapenos and pumpkin spice jalapenos, and also the Serrano and poblano peppers. So a good mix of really good mild peppers that we eat on a daily basis. And then up here is the Dwarf Incredible sunflowers. And then in this tray we have some more peppers and flowers and herbs that are growing. So this was supposed to be a Culipino that I tried to grow from seed from one that I was growing out in the garden, but it did not come up, but it looks like a marigold did. And then right there is the Massamato aster. And let's see what else. I'm just going to talk about the ones that have come up here. Serrano pepper right there. Beefsteak tomatoes. This is parsley and English daisies. And then this is more of the black dianthus that these are weeds growing in here. This one hasn't come up yet. And then I just planted some more sunflower seeds back there. There is a couple of lilliput zinnias trying to come up back here. Right there. And then that is a Grand Bell mix right here. that is trying to come up. And then down here, I've got some Chef Choice orange tomatoes, some Amish paste tomatoes, some cayenne peppers, some sweet banana peppers, some more of those midnight snacks tomatoes, some purple rain tomatoes, some German rubies, Aunt Ruby's German green right there. And then this is the white tomasil. These are just free seeds that I got from Baker Creek last year that I didn't start. And then back there, I've got some Black Prince snapdragons from Baker Creek seed that I bought last year. Some Cracker Jack marigolds and a few of the yellow giant marigolds back there. And then I just started a few more of the peppers that I started back there. So I should have a lot of pepper plants to start this year already. So I'm ahead on my pepper game. But we've got some Pikes Peak sunflowers, some Mammoth Russian sunflowers, some Orchid Cream nasturtiums, some Frontiera sunflowers, some Celebration Determinate tomatoes, and some Precipice Voorhees tomatoes, which those I found from some seeds that one of my friends mailed to me last year at the end of the season. So I just planted these a couple of days ago, so they haven't come up yet, but I do have high hopes for all of those sunflowers that I have planted in there. So that's what we got going on in the greenhouse, and my sprinklers are on, which is odd, but I will show you some stuff that I got going on in the garden. And it has been cold and wet, so I have not been planting much in the garden, but here we go. I'll just do an overview of what we're looking like in the middle of February. I like to look back at these videos many times and see different parts of the year and next year to see where I was at certain points. And I just cleaned out this bed right here. The onions that I bought from the Sam's haul, I'm going to be planting there, and some of those shallots. And then right here is onions that I planted in the fall, and they're doing pretty good. And then there's some more of my celery that I haven't harvested any of those yet. And then here is my Green Magic broccoli. It did get a lot of frost on them, so I've been cleaning up the frosty limbs and branches and everything and giving them to the chickens. But you can see that I've harvested all the broccoli heads. Okay, so this bed over here we planted on January 9th. And we'll just go through what's in here. We've got some tatsel in these first two rows. We've got some golden beets in these two rows here. Merlot lettuce growing there. And then we've got some Savannah mustard in those two rows here. And then in the back, we've got some Valero carrots scattered throughout that last two little rows there. Then over here, we got some kale. And then we used to have a bunch of basil, cardinal basil growing through here, but the frost got it, so I cut it back. Got some lettuce that went to seed. Got Swiss chard right here. And then we've got carrots that we grew, or we started. These are Danvers carrots that we started on October the 18th. And you can see down in there, they're starting to get a little bit of size to them. And then turning around, we got these, which we started around the same time, around the 18th. And then we still are eating off of these broccoli and Swiss chard and bok choy that we've got growing right here. in this bed. Starting to go to seed a little bit. I can see I need to go ahead and finish harvesting that bok choy. But in this little bed right here, we planted before Thanksgiving. I planted, and it might have been actually before New Year's. I planted some stuff in here, and there's some onions in here. There is some kale, some baby Swiss chard, some spinach, some Savannah mustard, some turnips. There's some beets right there, some more turnips and mustard greens, some tatsel, just all kinds of mixed stuff growing in this little area right here that I started. And that's where I started those tomato seeds, in this little area right here. Whoop. Sprinklers. It's an odd time of day for my sprinklers to be coming on, and I'm definitely wondering about that because they usually come on in the morning. So I'm gonna have to check to see what's going on with my sprinklers. But we'll get a little bit closer right here. So in this bed I had some tomatoes, but they got frozen. And then I had planted some kind of red romaine lettuce that I had purchased from Starts right there. And then in these little rows right here that you see that I have just started coming up, there is some tatsel, some toy choy, some radishes, some of the mesclun lettuce mix, the two different kinds of mesclun lettuce mixes that I had. And then in the bed behind it, where you see the sprinkler on, I have planted some red Norland potatoes, and those have just started coming up. And then right there you see it's my strawberry planter. And then in this bed right behind the peppers, I just had to cut my peppers all back because of the freeze. But in that green bed right there, you can see, maybe you can see, there is some potatoes. Those are the Yukon Golds that are starting to peek through in that little bed. And then here's my daddle peppers. Had to cut those all back. Let's see. We can go to the other side and look the other direction. Okay. Okay. Now we are over here. So this is what we got going on from this angle. One thing I wanted to show you is this bed that I built. And I said I was going to buy it, but then I got bored one day and decided to build it. So over here in this corner, which I'm going to be redoing that whole berry bed and reconfiguring it some more. I believe I'm going to probably just dig up that raspberry plant and plant it in a tire or a planter. That way I can just have the thornless blackberries and raspberries in here, because that is actually a bush type of raspberry that has lots of thorns. But, and I haven't figured out where I'm putting that at yet, but this is what this doorstep planter is looking like that I built the other day. So it's got the 3 tiers. I do need to level it up a little bit. It's kind of settled since I built it, but it will be 3-tier planter, and it's about 5.5 feet long and about 4 feet wide with 3 tiers. So it is about 48, comes out to about 48 here, and then like 32 there, and then like 15 inches at the top. So it is going to be completely open, and that's going to be that planter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this planter here that's at the end, so you can see that I have 3 of those box planters right there, and I'm just going to pull this one back and connect it to that one to create some walkway here, and then this one right here will just be two, one bed now instead of 2 separate beds. So having 2 separate boxes, it'll just be 1 bed, and that will give me room to walk around the end right here. And all my tomato plants got dead from the frost, and I'm gonna be going and getting some potatoes to plant in that middle row. And this is my tomato plants that I had going on over here. I had a few and they all died from the frost, so this is ready to be cleaned out. And I'm going to be putting another bed of some sort right here. It might be a tire or something is going to go right here on the end because I have this extra room. And then I'm going to be doing something with this because this completely broke. So I'm going to be doing something right here, and I might be with this, I might just set it on bricks right there and use it as a planter like I've been doing. Nothing growing in there. And then in this aisle, my peppers had to be cut back. They got by the frost. My rainbow carrots are looking good. All these are peas. These are shelling peas that are growing here on this aisle. Nothing on either one. Actually, nothing in all 3 of those rows right there yet. But here, I went ahead and got in here and amended this bed, and all of the turnips or rutabagas that I had planted that all came up, I went ahead and transplanted them all, spaced them out. So in this bed, we just have some beets on the edge, and then we have the whole rest of the bed is rutabagas. And I had planted them in 2 little rows, and then I went back and thinned them all and just planted the whole thing and spaced them all out. And back here I got some of my broccoli, and then in this tire I planted the rest of, because even with using this whole bed, I still had all of these rutabagas left over that I planted in this tire. I harvested all the turnips out of here. I still got onions in the back of this little bed and some bunching onions in that little circle. And then in this bed here, I still have radishes and onions and beets. I've been eating the greens from, and a few of the radishes here and there, but I've been eating a lot of those beet greens that are growing in here. So that's what this whole bed is: radishes, beets, and onions. And then that's my bed of cilantro. And then back here, I still have my collards, which are happy and growing good. In the back of that collard bed, I have even more rutabagas. When I planted those 2 little rows of rutabagas, I got a million starts, and I just transplanted them, and they did fine. So in these back 2 beds here, I have nothing yet. And then up here in the front, I still got broccoli and some cilantro and cabbages growing in that bed there. And that is pretty much it for the garden right now. I still have not planted anything back in the big bed in the back or in those 2 concrete beds right there. I did try to start some some volunteer tomatoes that I had moved where that little tent is, but the freeze lasted over 8 hours one day and it killed all the tomatoes that I had started back there. So now we are starting from square one with the tomatoes from the greenhouse, and I don't know if we'll have any more freezes or hard freezes, but we are going from this point on, and I'm fixing to get started on planting that bed right there with onions and shallots. So that's it for the garden today and the greenhouse. I hope you enjoyed seeing what we got started, and I will talk to you soon.